Blog Talk Radio.
More lives matter. It seems like black lives don't matter. More lives matter. Shot in the back, running or choked out to death on the corners. Mistake to stage before inside him, says the coroner. To the yellow journalist that won awards for writing facts. For World Wide Web press stories, always calling them black. Civil rights violated, here comes C1-7. And CIA and FBI agent, brethren felons with what Big Brother once heard. Most Moors are nerds and study more than if I'm on the road, no biting curbs. Prophets of mooses are fighting for survival. Making Moors martyrs won't happen, calling us Captain Rival. Inquisitionists, governors, and secretaries of state got stateless on the tables like ribeye steak. With no care, blood dripping, they eat blacks rare. Foreigners wearing 6-point badges, pretending they're heirs to the vastness of state medieval Axa. Stainless blood flow past a horse's brow, I swear it's agua. Demons thirst quench, stealing pioneers and organs. Psychiatry, death industry, to start selling black orphans. And half-closed coffins, cause legs are missing. Killing stateless people, cancer won't even see remission. More lives matter, but it seems like black lives don't matter. More lives matter, because it seems like black lives don't matter. More lives matter, because it seems like black lives don't matter. More lives matter, because it seems like black lives don't matter.
System, what system? Not gonna make myself no victim. Run down and kick them up, educate oneself and flip them. All of the titles of nationality strips them. Must grip reality in order to really grip them in this third dimensional illusion. Organized chaos, confusion, stealing your attention, mental intrusion. Universal laws, declaration of the ancients. I self-law and master from the rooftops to the basements. Poop deep to the spaceship, ever since all creations. Celestial foundations, ocean floor to the ranges, to the mountain tip, to the cosmic infinite. Basically, we are way above the shit. In other words, get in tune with spirit. Take a breath and accept. Mental polarity, gender, rhythm, correspondence, vibration, cause and effect.
More lives matter, but it seems like black lives don't matter. More lives matter, because it seems like black lives don't matter. More lives matter, because it seems like black lives don't matter. More lives matter, because it seems like black lives don't matter.
More lives matter, because I sing it no sound of. It gets defective when rejected, looking ass off. Get my perspective on the record to replay. All the moves that on replay until they want to cast off. Bury them on to the next one. Enough of them are gunning down. Dudes them a cast cross. Can't believe I told you that. Can't believe I Taj Cross. Trayvon, Michael Brown died for us to find cause. The afterlife visited the class brawl. Who they really want to see with the crown on high and the garbs on free? I am free and you're not business but your land or your country to seek your inalienable rights. The insatiable delight of knowing thyself and bringing all injustice to light. For the fight, you should play, make your sight for the bright. I'm the mic in the night. Foresight for you to realize that, huh?
More lives matter, but it seems like black lives don't matter. More lives matter, because it seems like black lives don't matter. More lives matter, because it seems like black lives don't matter. More lives matter, because it seems like black lives don't matter.
Sorry for the get you in. What? What? I'm rocking. Who says we ain't in the building? Who says we ain't into building?
We the Moorish master masons, architects for your children, rapping Friday 30s like Jason without the killing. But we promote light, oh, it's all about the feeling. And we invoke light, yo, we them light beings. Though you might see him on the block getting this posture, might be talking to cops, giving them caution, occasionally wearing his fez when he's walking. See the turning heads, whispering, gawking, but he's locked in and he's zoned out while we boxed in our own house. Study the mystics, the adepts, the magi, wisdom of the ancients can uncalcify us. Possible mission, free mental numbness, extract the substance with minds of dumbness. Use the source, don't care what some purport, as we know by being told man goes wrong. Many before the four souls got caught, placed in the devil's hands, ruling the seven lands. To dogma rituals, Negro spirituals, brainwash subliminal, keeps thinking to a minimal. They still criminal, in a world digital so pitiful. Mental survival so critical, it's visible. Can you see past righteous wrongs? Hashtag zombies with waves of cyber thugs. No need for cell phones, they speak from soft arms. It's nothing for alarm, chips and forearms. Wind, brass, and bass, such a beautiful serenade. Women feeding me grapes, I'm feeding the in these serenades. Whether the sky is clear or gray. Rain when you hear a fake, giving life to seed. Speaking through when I hear today. Show you the future in a glimpse. And I always look to these holes like hallucinatory gifts. Sun walked the desert, been more of a since I found God. Look back, used to see his prints. Forget being a prince, I'm a G. OD grown man, no joke, deny you don't know me. Don't make me tap into the old me. That's like a couple hundred years. Walk around town with a couple hundred peers and release the peace of up fears. The sun gon' shine, so what fears? This young brother here just trying to get his third eye clear.
This deep, Moors don't sleep. Invest in your mind, body, and unleash. Real life rap, spitting over tracks. Conscious thinking and living and then attack. This deep, Moors don't sleep. Invest in your mind, body, and unleash. Real life rap, spitting over tracks. Conscious thinking and living and then attack.
So as the moon sets, the sun takes its place and spoons on blocks, inspired spots, fill spaces, peel back, rats, who got cases, fire stain the corridors of flemo faces, game changers, rule benders and no pretenders, style benders, channel my vibe through the vibrant optic lenses, send a message to our veterans, soldiers up and get it in, we on the verge, we emerge subliminal beings, third eye seeing, still I participate unwilling.
They wanna break me, shake, break, me, running with my name G, double O-M-G, S-O-N is crazy for a minute that you think you can take me for a fool like a native to his land, being schooled by a foreign dude. You mistaken me, spiders on the roof, in the dark trees, I be saying you mistaken me, to better move for our market, power things my tongue, to resistance to target, revealing all lies and deceit on the market, genocide, carry out in pockets, I knock it, down bulldozer, give it to Goliath, it's an exposure, out some big heads ruling and it's getting closer to your downfall, round up all your soldiers.
Little hungry, I was seeking a fortune, tired of misfortune. I just wanted a portion, everything that I never had, though I needed my portion. Blowing like porcelain, haters back on the porcelain. Dead broke, tired of being broke. How we acquire hope is the teacher still as a dope, just to keep us afloat. Might as deep as the boat, brain is a lethal weapon. We one need to elope. When I speak, I provoke. Walk in the room with my aura feeling like heavy smoke. Feel like when they let me broke under my Louis 50 to send me coke. Cause then we capture the take the boy, yeah, and choke. The cost of living, higher profit to private prison. These little girls are sunny body just to pay tuition. These little niggas sunny niggas just for build condition. It's like the state they never end the prison in a mission. I wanna free the world, but I'm one man. A couple ones like me and me one plan. I wanna free the world, but I'm one man. A couple ones like me and one plan.
Peace and love, Moors. Peace to everybody listening. You are now tuned in to Moors Heritage and History School Blog Talk Radio for October 15th, 2020. Gregorian calendar is wrapping up fast. I am Mizraim Aleph L, along with my brethren, my co-host, unmuted, Noble Cujo Adwo L. Peace, bro.
Islam, Moor. Peace and love to all the Moors. Everything's clear? We good?
Yeah, we good,
We
bro.
good.
We
We
good,
good.
man. All right, we good? Man.
It's October, yo. It's October. Third Thursday. Once again. That third Thursday came up pretty fast too. It's crazy right now. Time is
It did because
flying.
It did because the month fit on Thursday.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks in, it's the third Thursday.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's still a beautiful time. You know what I mean? We halfway through the so-called month anyway. So it is what it is. It's crazy how fast this calendar year flew, considering all of the crazy circumstances of the times we in now. But man, I know we got some facts upon facts to get into tonight, bro. But first and foremost, you good? Everything well? You feeling well?
Yeah, you already know. You know what I mean? Taking that echinacea, vitamin C, and elderberry and all that stuff. We straight over here. Keeping it. Oh yeah, I can't forget the ginger. Got the ginger going on and everything. So we're doing all right. You know what I mean? For right now. We had the little COVID stuff going on here, second wave, third wave, or whatever like that. So we had shut down for the past 2 weeks. Well, this is the second week that we shut down, but we'll be back again. We'll be back again next week, just to see what these people are doing, because they're getting a little crazy with running up in places and fining people for stuff and all that stuff. So we're just taking it easy for 2 weeks and we'll be back at it again. But other than that, you know what I mean? Everything's great. What's good over there?
Man, same thing. All is well. I know that some places have opened up and then it's like they say somebody tests positive and then for this virus and then they'll shut like a business down for 10 days, 2 weeks or whatever, and then they bring them back. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Nothing is stabilized right now as far as going out into the world and having places to go.
Yeah.
It's very different. You know what I mean? It's just mad different right now. And it's like 6 months in, it just hit me the other day, like, oh, like, this is really happening, bro. Like, because we never lived through it. So, like, I'm just saying, we know it's happening, but when you really think about all the things that's just different, you're like, damn, we just seen life change in a sense, from what we've known it. I'm 33.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is different. You know what I mean? So,
definitely.
But the technology is a good thing as well in these times. So all is well, say the least. Now, tonight's topic, though, my gosh, man, you picked this one. You definitely picked this one. And I think it's a great topic, being, will Masonry or nationality free our people?
Mm-hmm.
This is a conversation, and we're going to give facts. I know you're going to put some things on the screen a little later, but I got to preface it like this. This is a conversation I actually have with my brother often, very often. He's always asking about, Masonry, Moors. He said he talked to a couple brothers that was in the lodge or whatnot, and they told him, like, on the real for real, don't even waste your time. You know what I mean? Because you're just gonna be paying dues. And I don't want to sound like I'm knocking any institution. Let me say that off the top. I'm trying to approach this subject very unbiased. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very unbiased, because I have my perspective about both things. It's almost like, it's hard to say, because it's like, even if nationality was the key to save our people, you wouldn't know how important it is without knowing the history of your nation, right? Like, nations have histories, chronologies. So I want to say, first and foremost, I don't think that any institution is the savior of our people. And I mean that with all due respect. I'm going to include the Moorish Science Temple of America in that. And the only reason I do is because studying the lessons, the Circle 7 Holy Quran, chapter 3 it tells you that the only savior, if you're looking for your savior, you have to look within.
Mm-hmm.
So will it help our people? Absolutely. Will it save our people? I think that's a personal choice.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
probably
will it
not.
Free our people?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But that was the question you first posed. But now I'm looking at it again. It says not save our people. Will it free our people?
Mm-hmm.
That's a relative but kind of different question. But as far as saving our people, I don't think any institution could do it, bro. I just think that they could provide the references and the enlightenment for you to make it your own. Like, that's what Noble Dry Lee basically was teaching. Like, even if you went to the Moorish Science Temple of America because you was in your lowly state, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just say that. You was in a lowly state, you're looking for something deeper, you go to the Moorish Science Temple of America. Let's just say Noble Dry Lee in his times. And he's telling you that you're your own savior, right? So he's not even saying, I'm saving you. He's saying, you're your own savior. This is the knowledge base. And this is the wisdom that you need to have to at least enlighten you to get on that path. You know what I mean? So when I see that in chapter 3 that your savior is you, at 33 now, bro, I've grown to accept that. That's kind of true. You know what I mean? Like, that is true. We get a lot of help and assistance from our nation and our peers and our family, friends, etc. But ultimately, it's up to you, right? Now, I say the same thing for Masonry. I don't think that it can save our people. It allows you to network. I believe that. But I don't think being a part of anything is it. That's just me. Mm-hmm. Now, freeing our people, yeah, I would say, will it help free our people? I would say yeah, because it's all mental, really. You know what I mean? And when you're talking about nationality or masonry, right? You're talking about mental. I'm not talking about blue masonry. I'm talking about like operative masonry as well. I can't help but to think of what I know. You know, my grandfather was an A1 brick mason. You know what I'm saying? He was actually a builder. He wasn't like, oh, let's build it. Nobody never built nothing. Like, this man built with bricks and stones.
Yeah, mine
you know
too.
What I mean?
Yeah.
Rest in peace to him. So, in a sense, that brought him his own freedom from his own hand, and I guess it had to be somewhat self-liberating to know that, okay, I'm building something. There's an end goal. I have a house that's about to be completed, but it's all going to be done at my will. You know what I mean? It's like an internal thing. You have to have the freedom to choose or have the dedication to your choice to live free, right? So I say that because one of the most essential parts of freedom is, you know, shelter in a sense. You know, you can move about how you want, but, you know, you hear Moore say it all the time, a load of your titles, or real estate, all of these things. You know, it has direct correlations to the land. So, I don't know, man, like, it's a tough question, but all I could do is share what I know about it, and then, you know, let people judge for themselves what they think. But I think, like, asking, is it masonry or nationality, is like asking, you know, well, which body part of your body can you survive without, right? Because masonry is inherently an attribute of Moors. Mm-hmm. Goes with the nationality. You know what I mean? So, like, to be like, oh, we don't need masonry, that's like, okay, maybe you don't need to be initiated. I get it. I totally respect that. But to know something about that, to know something about your history, because, like, last I checked, you know, they're talking about Solomon's Temple in the Masonic Lodge, right? They're talking about Solomon's Temple. And then they got this floor plan in Solomon's Temple. There's a room that's dedicated to the Moors. It's called the Moors room.
Mm-hmm.
The Moors ate all of these things. You know what I mean? Like they're in secret paying homage to our nationality.
Yeah.
So I think that to know both of them, and I'm not saying get initiated, is to actually have more knowledge about yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And to know both is more liberating, if you ask me. But I'll say this, for me and my brother, because we do have this conversation very often, it stops at this, why I wouldn't get initiated, why I wouldn't enroll into a Blue Lodge or anything like that, is because at the beginning and the end of the day, bro, like, I can't really do idolatry. You know what I mean? Like, I can't do it. It doesn't, me and my brother both feel the same way. It's like, okay, to call a man a most worshipful master, that's idolatry, bro. Like, I will give anybody their props if they master their craft. You know what I'm saying? Like, if a man is a master mechanic, I'm giving him his props for being the master mechanic. You know what I'm saying? If a man is a master teacher, I'll give him his props for being a master teacher, whatever that craft may be, whether it be kung fu, you know what I mean, wood shop, whatever it is, writing, whatever it is, you know, and women too. But I'm saying for me, this is where I draw the line with that. When you put most worshipful in front of that master, now you're talking about something totally different. You know what I mean? And for me, I don't see how that could be. I can't rock with that, bro. I just can't rock with that order of things. Because they talk about the three great lights, you know, and the sun and the moon and the most worshipful master. So the sun and the moon are considered the lesser lights. And I'm like, I can't put another man in the flesh over what Allah has set up, the order of the universe. Because I don't think any human being is more worshipful than that. But even that isn't really worthy of worship. All praises due to the Most High, or Allah, or God. You know what I'm saying? But respecting these traditions. You know what I mean? So I just think that you can't really get into one without the other, in the sense of knowing your complete history, right? Because I look at Masonry from a point of view of, that's my Moorish history, right? I am not trying to be initiated. I'm not trying to be looking at another man as a most worshipful master. You know, all praise due to the Most High. So I don't know if people could resonate with that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that these institutions haven't done things that in one way or another directly benefited or took away from society in a sense. You know what I mean? As far as public acts, because, you know, we can't really have this masonry talk without, and nationality at the same time, without looking at, you know, the fight that our Moorish brethren had being so-called Prince Hall Masons. You know what I'm saying? Having to tell these Europeans, we don't need your charter. This is our culture. This is our birthright. You know what I'm saying? So from that perspective, they had to make the Europeans respect them, because they was being questioned. Are they legit? You know, they didn't come from this lodge or that lodge that we don't recognize. And they was like, look, we don't need your recognition like that for real. You know what I'm saying? We are practicing our culture. And then they had sub-societies for the public. You know what I mean? Which that could have benefited the people in many ways, you know? But again, I respect their fight and what they did. You know, they don't really tell it like that, but that is a documented fact that they had to say, no, this is African culture. You know what I'm saying? And put their muscle down, and the Europeans had to respect that. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, more to me, you know, at the beginning and end of the day, knowing the history of our nationality, it encompasses so much, including Masonry. And when we get into that definition a little later on, when we pull that up, I want to show why the reverse side is just as dangerous. To say you're or be initiated as a Mason and have no knowledge of your nationality, likewise having knowledge of your nationality and having no knowledge of Masonry, both could be a disadvantage.
Facts.
You get what I'm saying? Like, it's always going to be a mystic part. If you, and I'm not saying anybody should get initiated. I'm saying you should know the history about these things. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like you would be missing so much because we talk all of this, oh yeah, we built the pyramids. You know how it is with the common woke folk. The first thing they learn, the first lesson there is, you know, oh, we built the pyramids. You know what I'm saying? Okay, well, what is the science of building? That's Masonry.
Right.
How can you say you built pyramids, right? And your nation is so great, but you're gonna, you know, not operative Masonry, but you want to have a build. See, a lot of people think that talking is now building. You know what I'm saying? And that's not it. Like, we're building, we are because it's about the unseen first. You know what I mean? So yes, this is a build. This is a metaphysical build. But then you have the 3D world way of building, which our ancestors did that too. Because everything they thought of and manifested came from the mind first. So before it was the pyramid, it was the tools. How we gonna, you know, square off this ashlar? How we gonna make this ashlar smooth? You know what I mean? Before we just throw it up on a foundation. So all of these tools that we use in the workshop of the mind, we can get real infinite with that, you know? And I just think that, because even when you look in the Circle 7, right? Chapter 5 is all Masonry, bro. So not no, you know, English charter, European blue Masonry. I'm not saying that. Like we, you know, like Noble Drew Ali was bringing us Blue Lodge degrees in the name of the Blue Lodge. No, I'm talking about where they got it from. You know what I'm saying? And they'll tell you they don't want to go back further than Solomon's temple, but then they'll tell you, you know, it goes back to Egypt and all of these things. So I don't know. I just think that nationality is first, and then everything else comes under that. You know what I mean? And if you really know it, you will know that there's no need to be in an inferior position. I wouldn't go as far as idolizing another man. You know what I mean? Give people their props if they are master at anything, but when you put most worshipful in front of that, that's what's a deal breaker for me, bro. I can't do it, bro. You know what I'm saying? I can't.
I hear that.
So, yeah.
So,
You know?
well, just to add on, to go back, when you were speaking about chapter 3 and the salvation or the freedom is really going to come from within. I find that that's a touchy position when we're dealing with people who are coming into the information. And I think, you know, that's really part of the whole mental slavery that Drew Ali told us that he was going to help us be free from, because you have to have some type of mental retardation to think something or something outside yourself is gonna give you everything that you need. When we deal with individuals who, you know, they might have connected with some, this actually happened this week. They were connected with some messed up people and didn't get what they were supposed to get from the external perspective. And then they end up finding us, or finding a Moor who's studious. And the Moor tells them, well, you know, if you were studying, you wouldn't have been in whatever you were in. If you were looking within, you wouldn't have got played by what's going on without. And they take this offensive or offended position as if that's not what the answer is to their problems. They're looking at it like, you know, we're holding back something, or we don't want to tell them what's supposed to be told, and you know, why is things are secret and all this. The point of the matter is that man is mind, and mind is internal. Mind is not external until you get to the aspect of it being operative. Before operative, like you're saying, before the building is erected, the blueprint is in the mind of the builder. Everything has to go through that process before it could be manifested. You know, the parents could do some serious rituals and bring forth some stuff if they're really on their game before she conceives. They could really set this stuff down, shut it completely down if they're really serious. But again, that block that we have, due to our conditioning as a people, that everything has to come from outside ourselves, is really where Drew Ali was going with correcting us, making sure that we have the documentation, we have the literature to show that you have to do it from the divine first in order for you to manifest, for you to have what it is that you're looking for you to be redeemed, is all going to happen from the internal aspect before it even gets to happen. And once that's digested, once it's acknowledged, once it's accepted that yes, the inner workings have to be done, right? The inner things have to be done first. Then you wouldn't have so much problems when you get to the external things, right? Like we know that it's a battle with our people every day, dealing with some external stuff, whatever it is, family, friends, work, walking down the street, you know what I mean, behind the wheel of the conveyance, whatever. There's always some type of external thing that we have to deal with. But there's never, or there's hardly ever, that internal preparation before you get to the external things. And again, once we get there to that place of realizing that man is mind, right? Divine is before national for a reason. That wasn't just he was saying something cool. He was saying that because that's what it is. The divine is first. The national is going to come once the divine is in order. As soon as the divine is out of order, guarantee all that stuff that you got going on outside yourself is going to be out of order. Which, again, moving ahead to this idea of the freedom coming from something outside or something internal. And then when we get to the aspect of the external, or we get to the aspect of the operative, they lose people from the divine side by relating or paralleling the operative with the speculative, when really the speculative is the divine. The contemplation of what it is. right? They put it backwards in order to have people lost, in order to have people thinking some guy is a worshipful master or whatever it is, when it really doesn't go like that. It really doesn't go operative and speculative like that. The operative is only operative once the speculative is understood, or once the divine is understood. Until we get to acknowledging and giving supreme reverence to the divine, you're going to have problems in the physical. Until you master the higher self, the lower self is going to rule you. That's just how the law of balance works. You're either going to be putting your energy on one pole or the other pole. Whichever pole you put that energy on, it's automatically going to suppress the other pole. That's just how energy goes. And there's no middle ground. There's no, I'm going to give 50 to the lower self and then give, it's all in or nothing in. And if nothing's in, guaranteed, you're going to have issues with whether it's individuals, whether it's with energy, you walking down the street and dogs attacking you and stuff like that. It's probably because your energy's messed up. It ain't nothing to do with the dog. Something's wrong with the dog. You're messed up. The individual's messed up. Going back again to this idea of, you know, the Asiatics who think that Masonry is where they're gonna get their you know what I mean, freedom from, their whatever from, when really that's just that's a deeper level of servitude. That's like spiritual servitude. An Asiatic being a Mason, because he could say that he's a Moor, declare his nationality, and be freer than the grand worshipful master or the grand potentate or whatever. We'd be way more free, have way more to offer, have way more to gain than the individual who's the head of some lodge or whatever. And with the science that is housed in these lodges, like you're saying, that is all of our stuff. You know, again, take in a lot of those lectures that Brother Abdullah Bey did at the lodges, and the perspective that he's trying to bring to them, that this is your stuff. This is not some Europeans putting them onto something and then now they got it because some European gave it to them. No, the Europeans recognized that Moorish science rules the world. So they have their Solomon's Temple, they got a Moor whatever in there. I'm pretty sure they got pictures of Noble Jew Ali and stuff like that up in the lodge. I'm pretty sure that they're wearing fezzes because of Moors. I'm pretty sure all their stuff is called ancient Arabic order and Egyptian order of the whatever, and scimitars and you know, women pharaohs with scimitars over their head and all that, because they know what the science is. That's not something that they created. That's something that they inherited. Why they inherit? Because the Asiatic Masons, who are really supposed to be, you know, what Dr. York was doing, taking the stuff back, what all the concept of what the Prince Halls are doing with wanting to be involved with it, it's really their stuff, especially considering that these people who the Prince Hall guys are saying, well, we're going to go to them to get a charter so we can be part of the lodge and the brotherhood of the whatever. Those people are defunct if they're in America, because they just severed their allegiance with England and all that by doing treaties with Morocco. So if they're doing treaties with Morocco, that means they don't have any allegiance to over there. So if they don't have any allegiance to over there, they can't come here and talk about charters or anything like that, because they're not showing allegiance to England at this point. They've abandoned. So if they abandoned, then how is it that the Asiatics aren't claiming what's theirs? They're pretending like they're down with some abandoned whatever. Again, going back to make sure you go get Moors and Masonry, so you can have some reference points for when these things come up as far as the conversation relative to Masonry and Moors, and the Moors are the ones who are stealing, which is why the second book that I put out was Who Stole the Fez? Moors or Shriners? Because there was so much people trying to convince me that I'm a Shriner when they see me with a fez for the first time, whether it's family, whether it's strangers, whoever. As soon as they see a fez, oh, the first thing comes to their mind, Masonry. That's not the perspective. That's social conditioning, thinking like that. And those hexes are going to be broken by the people who are internalizing all this. The people who are just looking through their eyes and that's all they know, they probably don't know what the hell they're talking about. Don't listen to them. Don't take them serious. Consider nothing that they're saying. Because once you get into Freemasonry, like for example, they have Masonic jurisprudence, where they're taking jurisprudence, which is the science that treats positive law, and then they're applying that to lodge, so that the quote unquote Masons could be living on a level of morality that's beyond what people really think morality is. Them having their apron on to block their lower self, so that it would force them to raise to higher degrees. Force them, because the apron is always there, it's always on, and it's always on to let them know that lower self is not too far, so you better check yourself. You better check yourself. Them talking about 5 points of fellowship is the 5 pillars of Islam, is the 5 principles of the Moors. So everything that they've extracted, and they're using really came from the Mohammedans, from the ancient Egyptians, from the ancient Sumerians, Persians, ancient Hindustanis, who they know had all the sciences that the world needs to be liberated. They take all those sciences, put them in their lodge, learn that amongst themselves, and give our people religion and dogma and all these other things that have nothing to do with their liberation. All that it causes is mental retardation in them. And then they're walking around in this mentally retarded position talking about they know their self, or they're woke, or they're conscious, or whatever, when these are some of the dumbest people on the planet. You just go check. You just question them on some of the stuff that they claim that they know. You go question some Hebrew Israelites on what they know. And if they're not telling you about the metaphysics of that, if they're not telling you about tree of life and all that stuff, and all they can tell you about is Yahweh and all this, they're no different than a Christian. They're no different than a Muslim praying 5 times a day when you should really be praying 10, 15 times a day because you're a sinner. You don't tell me about halal meat and all that type of stuff, killing animals or whatever, and tell me about Allah loves you. Stop this. Right? Don't tell me about, oh yeah, we're the Black Masons and all that stuff, and you're parading up and down the place when some European is your grand worshipful master. Or it's some brother who's your grand worshipful master, but he has a European name. But then you guys are talking about this is African culture and all that stuff, and you got European names up in there talking about liberating somebody. So again, it starts with internal. After internal, it goes into national or operative. Once it gets to national and operative, then that's man being what he knows, which again is Drew Ali's lessons and all that stuff. And we know for a fact that nobody could produce any lodge dues card or whatever like that for Noble Drew Ali in any lodge. Even though he was standing on his square, even though he had his hand on his heart and all that, even though he was looking like he was doing masonry, guaranteed he wasn't doing some European inherited practices. He was going back to his ancient foremothers and forefathers who taught all these Europeans, which is why he told all these Moors, get a good European education so I could use you. Because a European education is really a Moorish education. A European Masonic lodge is really our stuff. Has nothing to do with them. As soon as we don't acknowledge that it's ours and we start playing like it's theirs, we lose. And they rule, which is why they've been ruling, because we've taken our sciences, cast them aside, and picked up everything that this European gave us as if his perspective of something is the right perspective, when our ancient foremothers and forefathers' perspective is really where it's at. But I yield the floor. It's a lot more.
That's right. Yeah, no, those are all major facts. We're going to get into some facts on the screen. Shout out to everybody in the chat listening. But before we do that, and everybody that calls in and is listening via calling, I got a question, right? And this is just for everybody. And this is something to really think about, right? All right. As much negativity that you hear about Masons on the internet, you're talking devil worship. Like it's not even, I disagree with this part of your ideology. It's like, oh, Masons are the devil. Oh, Masons are the enemy. And from my perspective, being a Moor and have known that I was a Moor for a very long time at this point, long enough, and learning with that knowledge base in my mind, still studying, knowing I'm a Moor, right? I've seen this kind of happen to Moors over the past couple of years. It's like, oh, Moors who are out there being free Moors, they're the enemy, they're the ops, you know what I'm saying? And, it's kind of like trying to smear the autonomy of a uprising of a mentality, or Hiram being raised from the grave. Oh no, Hiram is dead. Don't worry, it wasn't a shallow grave. Yeah. No, the grave was deep. Those Moors will never rise. That's what they thought, right? So I kind of see this happening to free Moors today. But my thing is this: with all of the negativity, all of the allegations on the internet of Masons being devil worshippers and all of this, and I'm not privy to everything they do, but I'm asking, have you ever heard a Mason, a lodge initiated Mason, free and accepted, let me say that, an accepted Mason, come out and defend the craft? Like, you ever heard them on the internet trying to convince people what they are or are not? Like, real, you know what I mean? Like, let's just give the past 5 years. You might have had a couple of cornballs. They come on the internet and, they're going to Wikipedia and they're matching how Jay-Z is throwing up the pyramid and Beyonce's left eye is shown in the picture. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, have you ever heard somebody say, all of that isn't true, or do you think that they're just letting that truth of what they about be what it is? And the reason I'm asking that is because if knowledge is power and you're giving away all of this knowledge, are you simultaneously giving away your power?
Power.
Now, that's a question on another level.
Yes, I mean, when and again, it goes back to what perspective are we looking at it as? Like we were talking about in relative to the Quran and the different lessons that Drew Ali brought. He taught us power is an illusion. So are you really giving up the power by putting the information out? If power is an illusion, it goes both ways. You know what I mean? Depends on who your master teacher is. It's like Moore said in the chat. You know, C. Freemanel was teaching that Freemason is really a free Moor. So are they really Europeans like that, or are they really pretending to be us? And the whole concept of, you know, quote unquote secret societies is really a front, because if Drew Ali came and took all the secrets away, then there ain't no such thing as secret society like that. As far as, you know, well, you know, they're keeping this information off the internet, or, you know, you need to be in the lodge in order to get this information. Well, if Drew Ali took away all those secrets and we got them now, then there's no secrets like that. You know what I mean? They're just playing around.
Well,
you know.
So that being the case, my thing is certain things, like even when they're bashing Moors, how they did the Masons, basically, or they're on the wrong side, you know, Masons. If there's no secrets, do you think that they feel like they're holding these truths to be self-evident? You know what I mean? Like, is that where we at? Because I haven't seen no worshipful master, nobody come on the internet and say, hey, what y'all are saying about us being devil worshippers isn't true.
Right.
Like, I haven't seen that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying. So is it like, are they holding it to just be self-evident? Like, we don't care what you say.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? They could even be studying Drew Ali, because Drew Ali even told you in Social Duties, don't open your ears to slander. So they're secretly studying the Prophet or whatever, right? Applying all his lessons that he presented to these Negro, black, colored people who think that they know themselves, right? They have his picture up there and all that stuff. They you know, people think that they don't know what's up. You know what I mean? Just like you're saying, oh yeah, they're Illuminati, they worship the devil, you know, they look at Noble Drew Ali's picture, you know, just like Moors have Drew Ali on the fridge. As soon as they do something messed up, they look at the fridge and they're feeling messed up because Prophet saw them do that messed up stuff. Right? And then they say, you know what? Drew Ali said, don't even open our ears to these people's slander. So they could say whatever it is that they want, because we know that they're speaking from a place of incompetence. We know they're speaking from a place of not being involved with this. So we don't really have to respond to them like that. But of course, you know, you have your little goofball people, Masons out there, who's going to put up their little videos and say something. But then you also never see them come out and talk against those people. You know what I mean? The people who are pretending to be Masons or whatever, or the people who haven't been in the lodge, but they're out here with, you know, compass and square with the G and all that stuff on their hat, talking about they're revealing some Masonic whatever. So that's it. It's definitely an interesting perspective, looking at it from, well, you know, how come they don't say anything? Because people talk a lot of BS about Masonry and all that, and they really don't say anything about it. You know what I mean? I mean, and it could also be from the level of they've been doing it for so long and have this thing so locked down that they're not obligated to say anything, because they already know that's probably point whatever percent of the population who feels that way about Freemasonry, because everybody else is down with it. Whether it's Asiatics, whether it's Chinese Masons, they got Native American Masons or whatever. So, you know what I mean? If everybody's down with it like that.
Tonight. Oh no, we're going to get into this tonight. Back to the question. Oh, we got to go in on this. Like, this is just, but I'm just saying, like, it came from us. You know what I mean? Like, all of it came from the Aboriginal indigenous people, and we got the facts. Damn. So, man, yeah. So every society, every so-called race that you could think of, right? Mm-hmm. Every nationality has this participation in the science that's actually running the world. which is definitely is heavy on the symbolism. It was left by Noble Drali, and you gotta forgive me, I believe it's in the Red Book, though, when he was talking about man must learn by signs and symbols, or at least he left a lesson for us to learn that.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, it's a lot of he didn't teach us. He just taught us that we needed to learn it. If you get what I'm saying. Like Noble Drali said, Asiatics of America need to learn to love instead of hate. But he didn't necessarily say this is lesson number 1 on how to love.
Right.
He said you need to go learn it. You know what I'm saying? Like he just told you you needed to go learn. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like in a sense, it's like because if he told you, like he said, if I told you everything, yo, you go back to sleep. Yep. So let me tell you what you need to. You know what I mean? Which
is the greatness. Yeah, which is the greatness of what I recognize in Drali's lessons. Not only did he give you the specific things that we needed to learn, but he also gave us specific reference points of where to go to validate everything that he's saying. You know?
Right.
Like if you want to know about the workshop of the mind, yeah, go read some Buddha. Go read some Confucius, see where their minds were at. Go read some Muhammad. Go read some Jesus that you never heard about before because people are calling him by the wrong name. You start looking up the right name and you realize that the half has not been told. You know? There's so many reference points that he gave in order for us to find our way. So many breadcrumbs. But you know, Hansel and Gretel, they're still lost in the forest. Don't even know where they're going. You know?
That's a fact. That's a fact. Following the breadcrumbs in the new moons or the full moons.
Yep.
You know, that's what the whole thing was based on. You know what I mean? And it said that in some societies, that story is older than the Bible, bro. We're talking about that story being older than Jesus Christ himself, bro. You know what I'm saying? If that excuse me. Now let me not say that, not Jesus Christ, but the story of the Christ. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it goes back. The King James version of the Bible is older than that. When you're speaking on Hansel and Gretel, so I mean, all of these are things, though. But yeah, man. So I think that you can't separate these things in the sense of knowing the history of your nationality, bro. I can't see from what I've studied. I can't see studying Masonry and it making sense without you knowing about Moors.
Yeah.
Because the story will always be incomplete. You know what I mean? And even deeper than that, knowing yourself, you know. But it's going to always be incomplete without knowing these are the founders of that. And that Moors are Aboriginal indigenous on both sides of the planet. And when we are speaking about Masonry, this is a fact that's known. I'm not just saying that to say that. Like, we actually have the facts. So, I mean, if you want to get into that, I mean, we could go in if you want to add anything on.
Oh, yeah, let me just...
get into that American history.
Yeah, let me just, before we even do that, just to reference the language with regard to the Masons so that we can have a better perspective before we go in. Now, what you had sent me was a lexicon of Freemasonry. Why is it that they went to the level of not just calling it a dictionary? Like, where are they going? What are they trying to say, right? They're taking it beyond the realm of dictionaries. They're letting you know that in the world of Freemasonry, it has its own language, but it's not relative to the language that, you know, English, French, Spanish, whatever. This is Masonic language, which is separate from, just like law language is separate, but they still call their stuff dictionary. Why they go to the level of really separating themselves, right? Because again, they're taking what came from our ancient foremothers and forefathers, encapsulating it, and those tablets that they encapsulated, that's only going to the people who are in their quote unquote lodge. This is not for everybody's consumption. This is limited to people who are classified as in the lodge. But in the lodge, in their lexicon, they brought up some very interesting things. And we're, you know, I know you wanted to go in on that first one. So the floor is yours, Mar. I think
Yeah.
yeah.
And you know, to the best of my knowledge, this information is public domain.
Yep.
It's a lexicon of Freemasonry, and it says it's containing a definition of all its communicable terms, notices of its history, traditions, and antiquities, and an account of all the rites and mysteries of the ancient world by Albert G. Mackey, right? And it says he's the author of The Mystic Tide, Grand Secretary and Grand Lecturer of the Grand Lodge of South Carolina, Secretary General of the Supreme Council, 33rd degree for the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States, of the Grand Chapter of South Carolina, etc. So this is who put this together, right? So we're not just talking about, like you said, we're not just talking about something we've seen on YouTube. Like, this is deep. And the only reason this, like, really stuck with me is because, like I said, I am a Moor. I don't want to state the obvious, but yes, I'm a Moor. And I've studied the lessons of Noble Drew Ali. Chapter 47 rings a lot of bells when we look at this definition of American mystery, right? So the definition of American mystery, it says, among the many evidences of a former state of civilization among the aborigines of this country, which seem to prove their origin from the races that inhabited the Eastern Hemisphere. Not the least remarkable is the existence of fraternities bound by mystic ties and claiming, like the Freemasons, to possess an esoteric knowledge which they carefully conceal from all but the initiated. So I'm looking at that, I'm like, American mysteries, and the first thing it's talking about is among the many evidences, and you might be able to blow that up on the screen, bro, since you got it going on your YouTube page at the same time. I don't know if it's perceivable. But,
yeah, I could make it bigger.
Yeah. So it says, you know, that the aborigines of this country, they're speaking about America, which seem to prove their origin from the races that inhabit the Eastern Hemisphere. And to me, it just reminded me of what chapter 47 was saying. And I'm not mixing anything. I'm just, you know, seeing the parts of things that I study, how it's adding up. Like, oh, wow, maybe it was a deeper to what he knew. You know what I'm saying? Or this was just what was in plain sight the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So when they're speaking about as many evidences of a former state of civilization among the aborigines of America, and they seem to prove their origin from the races that inhabit the Eastern Hemisphere. So when we we say we're Asiatics, when we say we're Moors, like Moroccans, descendants of Moroccans, born in America, what the Masons know is that the Aborigines of America was saying that this is where we come from. It wasn't like these so-called Indians today who is telling you, oh, Moors are from Morocco and Moors are fighting the Masonic feds and all of this. Nah, it's like they know amongst the societies they dealt with that the people, the original people of America, was saying in their societies, we come from the races, our origin is from the races that inhabit the Eastern Hemisphere. So, you know, that right there is what stuck out to me in correlation to the question you asked, can Masonry save our people before nationality? I don't think that definition would make sense if you didn't read chapter 47 of the Holy Quran.
Right.
I mean, like, to me, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of all goes in the sense when you're talking about studying from a historical perspective, you know what I'm saying? That you got to know about a little bit of everything in a sense, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So, for me right there, that just ends like, you know, all of the dispute about, well, you know, they don't see Moors as original to America. You know, Moors are from Morocco and, you know, they wear the fez because they got it from Masons. It's like, no, they got everything from us, you know what I mean? And they know that we was on both sides of this planet Earth. Because why would they talk about many evidences of a former state of civilization amongst the Aborigines of America, right? And then in the next breath, they're saying, which seem to prove their origin from the races that inhabit the Eastern Hemisphere. So that means that the Aborigines knew that they was from both sides of the, on both sides of the Atlantic.
Right.
You know what I mean? They knew that. That's a fact. They know that the so-called Africans who was Egyptians, kings and queens, and, you know, Canaanites, Moabites, Amorites, Hittites, all of these people are really the original people of America. So, you know, I have to, it's not funny, but it's a supreme example of ignorance when these people today are talking about they're indigenous and Moors are not indigenous to America. Like, they have no knowledge. They have no reference points. You know what I mean? Like, they're studying from the youngest sources of history. You get what I'm saying? Like, all of their reference points are modern. But then they take modern reference points and try to make an old argument or old, you know what I'm saying? Like, they try to stand on ancient grounds with a modern argument, and it just doesn't work.
Now, check this one. Relative to that thing, that same thing you're talking about. One day last week, I was wearing the Moabite. I got this Moabite hat. I was wearing a Moabite hat. This European on the slave comes out to me like, "Hey, does your hat say Moabite on it?" Yeah, it says Moabite. Well, you know something about the Moabites? Guess what he said? Yeah, I've been to Utah.
Yeah.
Right? Why is he making a reference point to over here with regard to Moab like that? Right?
Yeah.
How come all the Asiatics are going to tell you about some Bible stuff like that and all that, but this European, his reference for Moabite is Utah. Bible didn't even come up. No reference point from the Bible even came up. But as soon as you deal with our people, and just like that came to mind when you said that they keep dealing with the baby reference points, not the ancient ones. They always deal with the youngest reference points. And they don't even, it doesn't even connect to them or relate to them that, you know, when we say Moors are indigenous, we're not just talking about over here. Moors are indigenous across the Atlantic as well. The people over there who call themselves African would tell you, yes, we're indigenous to over here. But they don't call themselves Indian. They don't call themselves Native African and all that stuff. But they know that they're indigenous over there. Just like we know that we're indigenous over here. And it has to be acknowledged, again, like we were saying in the beginning, this is really an internal battle that they're having. All these people who are debating Moors about, well, I did my DNA test and we saw the Dawes rolls, that means we're Indians and all that. That's an internal battle that they're dealing with. Because they don't even have the reference points in their mind. Like we said, if this European's going to tell me about Moabite and they're talking about Utah, then I know I'm on the right track. None of these Asiatics out here who, I don't care if they came from ancient Moab itself over there. They're not telling me anything about what they think they know. Because again, European knew what nationality was. Our people, oh no, they don't deal with that. Their colors and they're all this other stuff. We go to the lexicon, they're letting you know off the top. Yeah. The fraternities are bound by mystic ties. The mystic ties have to deal with the Aboriginal indigenous people of who quote unquote were known as Iroquois. They're not talking about how are they not talking about over there? Why is their connection to the mystic ties and all that over here? Why is there ties to the Seneca? Why are they talking about over here and the institutions here relative to these mysteries that are housed in these places called lodges? Because everybody knows, the world knows that when Egypt fell, the people who were over here started practicing all that stuff hard body. All the mysteries of Atlantis and Mu and all that, all the mysteries from the different pyramids all over the world, this place became the housing of all that history. And ever since those times, everything's been here. Lock, stock, and barrel, it's been here.
It's called
American mysteries, not African mysteries.
lexicon.
Not African mysteries. American
mysteries.
Not ancient Egyptian. Not ancient Egyptian mysteries. American mysteries.
Yeah. Scroll up to the definition where it actually say. That's what we're looking at real quick. We about to go in, but I don't know if it's my computer being slow. But anyway, that's what the definition is that we read.
Mm-hmm.
American mysteries, right? So it says that this is what the Aborigines of America was proving. Yeah. You can that's cool. I mean, you could have went down a little bit more, but okay, whatever. But anyway, American mysteries. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's deep to me, you know what I'm saying? Because I know the definition of American, referencing any of the various copper-colored, Aboriginal, or any of the various copper-complexion natives found on the continent by the Europeans, and that being the original application of the name American or the word American. It's yours, right? And they're telling you in the Masonic lexicon that, you know what I mean? There's many evidences of former civilizations among the Aborigines of America, but they're proving their origin from the race that inhabited the Eastern Hemisphere. To me, that's just, it can't be stressed enough that we the same people. And then even again with the Nat Geographics talking about how they found pieces of Africa up under Florida and Georgia and North Carolina. Come on, fam. Like, this is this right here, you know, since a lot of people act like Moorish history is a mystery, like this right here, your great granddad and them know this. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to those who bash Moors, like what, and I'm talking about from an institutional perspective. You know what I mean? With their media outlets, SPLC, and all of them. Like, you know, this is what your peoples knew. You know what I mean? This was from a 33rd degree Mason from the Southern District of the United States. So don't act like, you know, Moors ain't Aboriginal here. And what does that mean in law, though? You know what I mean? What does being Aboriginal, indigenous, native, the firstborn on the land, what does that mean in law? Because it's in the Institutes of American Law by John Bouvier. If they're going in on how the Aboriginals or persons of the so-called Indian race are not in general citizens of the United States, ma'am. You know what I'm saying? This is a whole different jurisdiction. So it's not like Moors are saying, oh, we're Aboriginal indigenous just to say like, yo, we was first here. It's a fact, and it's the truth, and it has ramifications in law. Don't let nobody tell you that doesn't mean anything in law. That means everything. Like, now, on the other hand, there's a lot of people in so-called positions of power who abuse that power. But the thing is, if you don't know that, they're not going to hold you to a standard that you don't have any consciousness about. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's basically what it boils down to. You got to be what you know, and you better know yourself if nothing else. You know what I mean? Know yourself. So that's why I look at it and I'm like, you know, all of it is really, we can learn from anything. But check this out. Okay, so it was saying how they're bound by mystic ties and claiming, like, quote-unquote, Freemasons to possess an esoteric knowledge which they carefully conceal from all but the initiated. To me, that sounds like maybe the adept chamber.
Right.
How they, because, you know, like, in sense, you know what I mean? You got Moors in the temples today who are trying to run it like it's a Masonic lodge. So it like the more you was talking about went to a temple in Texas and they like, oh, that's Taj, that's whoever, and they're like, nah, you know, this is, you know what I mean? Like, this happens throughout societies, but the thing is, we're not no secret society, and the temple wasn't a secret society. Right. But the noble duality was here. You know what I mean? They was dealing with Gnostic wisdom, of course. You know what I mean? So, in that regard, you got to see that for what it is. But I don't know. Like, I think they did Noble Drew Ali kind of like how they did Jesus and started idol worshiping him. Yeah. When this was all about the mysteries or the unveiling of the truths of the Most High. But let's finish reading this definition of American mysteries out the lexicon. So it goes on to say, DeWitt Clinton, once the General Grand High Priest of the United States. And I'm going to say that again. DeWitt Clinton, once the General Grand High Priest of the United States. General Grand High Priest of the United States. Why not of a church? Why not of a temple? Why, like, General Grand High Priest of the United States, man? I mean, sit with that for a minute. You know what I mean? Like, really think about that. What is the United States doing with a General Grand High Priest? Because You know, it makes a lot of sense when you know United States is not the land. You know, why wouldn't an institution have a high priest? A religious corporation at that? Why wouldn't they have a general grand high priest? You know what I mean? But people talk about the shadow government, the deep state, all of that. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that, I don't know, bro. What's your thoughts on that before we even go on? The fact that there was a general grand high priest of the United States, not a church, not a Catholic church. None of that.
Well, again, to it, when in the I can't remember the book, but there's another Masonic Albert Mackey book when he's talking about the different bodies of the lodges, different bodies of the lodges, and one of them that dealt with general grand whatever was the Royal Arch Masons. Now, when we look at even what they call themselves, the Royal Arch, the arch has everything to do with those Alhambra designs and stuff like that that you always hear about on Moorish architecture. So when they're talking about the general grand, and they're relating that to United States, which, like you said, we know that that's not the land. But then people are going to be telling you about everything else that is taking over the government and all that stuff, but they're never going to talk about the York Rite and the Masonic bodies and the Templars and all those things. You know that people are leading you down some road to nothingness, because they're not dealing with these specific things like what we're talking about. Again, the high priests of Anu are the Moors. Freemasonry is Moorish. The general grand royal arch is Moorish. Everything is going back to our ancient foremothers and forefathers, and these people are jacking all your shit. Everything.
Facts, though.
Jacking it all. The greatest general of all times was Hannibal. He's a Moor. So how much things do they have to jack from us for us to stop and realize, hey, hold on a second, they're jacking our stuff. They don't really have authority like that. They don't have that authority like that. Remember, these people disbanded from Europe to be over here. So this is really a renegade operation when they're talking about Freemasons in America and all that, Freemasonry in the United States or whatever. This is a renegade operation because they left over there. They're over here without a charter. How are they over here without a charter? And then people aren't calling them on being over here without a charter. But they're going to tell them about Illuminati and they got so much power and this and that. It's illusionary. It's a fiction. General Grand High Priest is a fiction, just like United States is a fiction. And then also, again, dealing with the language, they could be just talking about General Grand High Priest of the geographical location called United States. Nothing to do with United States as how our people think United States when they hear United States. They could just mean the General Grand High Priest of over here. And then there's a General Grand High Priest of China and a General Grand High Priest of wherever else in the world.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
You know what I mean? There's so many, but again, this is why when we check it, and they're saying lexicon, not dictionary. This is not for, even though this is public information, anybody could download this at this point. There ain't no secrets like that, right? This lexicon isn't just limited to, you know, the lodges, but it's kind of only limited to the lodges because nobody else is going to be doing this with the lexicon other than Moors. Like
That's absolutely a fact.
nobody's going to be doing this. Much less going into it how we're going to it, or much more going into it how we're going to it. They don't even know that this thing exists called a lexicon of Freemasonry. Right. They have no clue, but they know about Illuminati and they know about Jay-Z did this hand thing and all that stuff. They don't know jack. People playing games. They need to go study. But that's an interesting one. General Grand High Priest of the United States. What? And again, do your research on the Royal Ark of Freemasonry, because this is deeper than what they're presenting. Definitely deeper than what they're presenting.
Oh yeah, big time. And remind you, this is all under the lexicon definition of American mysteries, fam. That's what we're talking about. So it's the difference between America and the United States. Let's keep that very, very clear.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be clear. We have to be up on our geography, right? Because when they're talking about a general grand high priest of the United States, that's corporate. That's not natural jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a natural jurisdiction, no way. You know what I mean? But this just hit different. You know what I mean? So let me bring that back. Excuse me. DeWitt Clinton, once the General Grand High Priest of the United States, relates on the authority of a respectable native minister who had received the signs, the existence of such a society among the Iroquois. You know what I mean? So, like, they had the signs, you know, and again, this is American mysteries. This is going back to the fact that this was already here, fam. You know what I'm saying? When it says that, you know, just like the Aboriginals, who was proven that they had origins in the Eastern Hemisphere, but, you know, they was exercising an existence of a fraternity bound by mystic ties and claiming, like the Freemasons, to possess an esoteric knowledge which they carefully conceal from all but the initiated. And then, you know, to take that into the fact that they're telling you, the General Grand High Priest of the United States was telling you that amongst the Iroquois, these people had this, they had the signs and symbols too.
Yeah.
And then you could go to RV Bay Publications and get the book about the Iroquois. You know what I mean? The Great Law of Peace. And I know that from what I was taught, you know, Iroquois was the ones who actually taught the Europeans in what they called the longhouses, which later became shortened to lodge. You know, so like when Moors was telling this history, somebody knew what they was talking about.
Yeah.
Somebody knew. When you check the records, you know what I mean? Like, Moors wasn't just out here just saying this. Like, if you go do the knowledge and the research, all of it is checking out as truth, man. You know what I mean? So, if the General Grand High Priest of the United States could be relating the fact that a respectable native minister, you know what I mean? Like, come on, fam. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, people is disputing, you know, I don't like ministers and, you know, what they got to say about Minister Louis Farrakhan, whatever. This man said a respectable native minister who had received the signs, the existence of such a society among the Iroquois, man. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying anything to take a shot at any of them. I'm just saying.
And there's a reference point with regard. Yeah, that's just a reference point with regard to the longhouses. There's a book by Daniel Richer called The Ordeal of the Longhouse, talking about the Iroquois and European connection or challenges of European colonization while the Iroquois had the longhouses, which again is going to let you know that there was some people doing Masonic stuff and all that before these Europeans came talking about they're the Masons or whatever. Right. And it has to register in your mind that our people were doing stuff before other people. So because the presentation is it's a European thing doesn't mean it's a European thing, which again goes back to the reconstruction of history, hiding certain information so that all your reference points are making your compass just spinning. You don't even know where you're going. Right? When once you're facing in the right direction, once you know where east, west, north, south is, then you know where you're going. If you don't have, if the dial is not pointing in the right direction, you're going to end up walking off a cliff while you're looking at the compass, thinking you're going in the right direction. Right? But The Ordeal of the Longhouse is the name of the book.
Yeah.
Islam, man.
Oh, no doubt. So this respectable native minister, the grand priest, the general grand priest, high priest, excuse me, of the United States, is saying that he had received the signs, right? Because we know that Masonry is signs and symbols. It's math manifested, right? So he's saying, okay, yeah, they got this. You know what I mean? Like, he had it. It wasn't nothing to doubt. You know what I mean? And this existed amongst them. So it says the number of the members. Now, mind you, we're reaching the definition of American mysteries from out of the Masonic lexicon. And it says the number of the members was limited to 15, of whom 6 were to be of the Seneca tribe, 5 of the Oneidas, 2 of the Cayugas, and 2 of the St. Regis. They claim that their institution has existed from the era of the creation. The times of their meeting they kept secret and throw much mystery over all their proceedings. So, again, back to these so-called indigenous people who are dissing Moors. Like, Moors are from Morocco and they're not indigenous to North America, South America, Central America. Hey, go, yeah, this is a myth buster. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you blaming the Europeans and Moors, like, we don't know what we're talking about when everybody know the true history of the planet except y'all. Really. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm speaking to those who have been dissing Moors like they're not Aboriginal indigenous to America. Yeah. Because these same people are the ones who say that they say, you know, among many evidences of former state of civilization, among the Aboriginals of this country, being America in their words, seem to prove their origin from the races that inhabit the Eastern Hemisphere. So when we go back, even if you want to say you indigenous to America and you're not a Moor and you are part of some tribe that's been here in America for millions of years, okay, well, when we do the knowledge, it's telling you that the Seneca tribe, which is exclusively, well, not exclusively, knowing that, you know, they're claiming they're from the East. So the Seneca, the Oneidas, the Cayugas, and St. Regis or whatever, they're all proven in their American mysteries, like, look, we come from the East. You know what I'm talking about? These are tribes of America telling you that their origins are from the East. Who would that be? Moors, according to them, come from Africa, Northwest Africa. But the people who was already here are saying that they came from the East too. You know what I mean? Like they came from across the Great Atlantic. Like that's their origin. That's what they're saying. That's what the indigenous peoples of America's foremothers and forefathers were saying, that their origins was in the East, man. So when Noble Drew Ali was speaking about that great earthquake that caused the Great Atlantic Ocean, right? All of it makes sense when you have that knowledge base and can put this puzzle together. You know what I mean? Like, because Seneca, that's so-called New York area and things like that, right? All of these really are part of what is called the Iroquois, who really are Moors. It's not a secret, fam. It's really not. So I'm just saying, you know, when I see this on the internet, it's almost like, damn, man, like we gotta come back to first grade to teach some people who profess to be collegiate, you know what I'm saying, about something about themselves while they denying a part of themselves. You know what I mean? We're not Moors. You sound ridiculous. We're not Moors. We're indigenous of America. We're native Indians. I get it. I'm American. I'm not letting nobody take that word away from me. Because just like there's real talk, though. Real facts, bro. Just like they tried to take Masonry away from us, like they invented that, well, they're doing the same thing with the word American. Not only did they steal your culture, they stole your appellation, too.
Yeah.
Because that one free national constitution, like when Noble Drew Ali was saying, those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables. Okay, well, guess what? The United States is not the free national name of anything. American is, though. That's facts.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, because I heard some Indians or whatever, black Indians or whatever like that, indigenous people making the claim that their nationality is American when Moors ask them what's their nationality. What do you think about that?
Okay, if I was to say my nationality was Al-Moroccan, would you say I'm wrong?
Not saying I'm Moroccan, no.
So what's the problem with American? Because it means the same thing, just a different way. Like if you look at, okay, all right, and I think this is a sister in history, but I think she's been whitewashed. Marie Antoinette, right? You know, you can trace house arrest back to her, you know what I mean? Like in Europe and French, but I think her name was English at first. It was Antonia Marie. Then she married a Frenchman and it became, Marie Antonia. But when she married into the French, it became Marie Antoinette. Right? It wasn't really a name change, but more so kind of like, you know, you could Anglicize a word and then it might have its origins in French or Latin or whatever, but you're saying the same thing. I think the problem comes in when you're saying you're American, but don't know that you're saying you're Al-Moroccan. I think that's the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's the real problem.
Well, that was gonna be the next question. So if these Indians are claiming that they're American and that's their nationality, can they say that they're not Moors then?
No. Like, I mean, they could, but it proves a level of incompetence that is beyond me, bro. Like, it's incompetence. You know what I mean? Like, they half woke. They still sleepwalking. You understand? Like, they don't understand a mere American, M-E-R, David McRitchie, Ancient and Modern Brit Times. He breaks down the M-O-R, the M-E-R, you know what I mean, the M-A-R, whenever you see that, you know what I mean? Like, it's so many derivatives of the word more, fam, that it's just ridiculous. Like, it's like the only word you can take into any language and still see the trace of itself. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's the only word that you'll still see a trace of itself.
Yeah.
Whether you say, all right, so if we go to Britain and they say, oh, Cujo, he's a Murray. You know what they just said? They just said you was a Moor. They just say, it's so many different ways to say it. Oh, Maurice. Oh, Moor. Oh, Moorlot. Moorland. It's so many different ways to say the same thing, bro. But my discrepancy is to this. I have an issue with being classified as Negro, black, and color. Yeah. Because these words, you don't find any historical footprint that's universal. Like Moor, I can see that in American. I can see that in so many different other languages. You know what I mean? I can see that in so many different languages. I mean, Ancient and Modern Brit Times is where it's at for that. So, I don't know, man. Like, I personally, if you look at it, the definition of American, like, and knowing your history, you know it makes sense, man. You know, but, like, I feel like Brother Khalid Muhammad, man, like, I know who I am. I'm not going to argue about it with nobody about who I know I am. Right. Because I got the facts. You know what I'm saying? Like, if these facts are debunkable, debunk them. You know what I mean? Like, the word, as late as 1936, not even 100 years ago, the word meant any one of the various copper complexion natives found on the continent by the Europeans. So, what, we're going to let them steal everything? They're going to steal your name, give you theirs. You know, they claiming to be Americans, we claiming to be citizens of the United States, and wondering why they're exercising sovereignty. Like, stop it. Stop it. We know, just like Masonry is ours, you know what I'm saying? That, at least I'm speaking for myself, just like Masonry belongs to Moors, the word American belongs to Moors. I just think it's a shortcut to end all debates about it, about us being Aboriginal, indigenous here. But you gotta know history. Like, I don't even think, me personally, and I don't mean to try to sound arrogant, but I don't even think people can sincerely say that they're American without knowing or reading up on books like Nature Knows No Color Line, right? J. Rogers, Ancient and Modern Brit Times. To me, like, if you 33 or younger, and we could give or take in some of that age frame, but I don't think you claiming to be a Moor, if we're gonna base it off this whole school system that we went through and all of that, I don't think you can honestly know what you're claiming until you read Ancient and Modern Britain. Yeah. Or you can know what you're claiming until you read Nature Knows No Color Line. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But have the prophet's information in mind while you're reading it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, to me, because I know what the school system was like. We didn't learn nothing about this. I was showed the definition of blackamoor in a high school dictionary, bro. My mom and Todd showed me the definition. I went to school the next day. The same dictionary was on the shelf, bro. And they never showed us this. They never broke down the etymology, what's in the brackets, and how black is the adjective, Moor is the noun. It means any dark-skinned person. Oh, okay, my skin is brown. Oh, got it. I'm not black. I'm Moor. Got it. Simple. It's not rocket science, right? And The same thing with the word American. I'm speaking from the definitive perspective. Like, what do these things mean on the books? You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, on the books, it means this. How it's used, just like they claim to be white people, and they are not. Just like they claim to be Americans, they are not. You know what I mean? Just like they claim to be all types of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're really not. I just can't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think that's a great starting point.
Yeah.
This definition of American. You know what I mean? Like, it's a great starting point. But the further you go back, you can see how it changed. So, like, you know, even with some of these tribes, like, some of these tribes, all they're saying is that we're original people. You know, Lenni Lenape means original people. Washita means the ancient ones. You know what I mean? Yamasee, ancient ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look into that. Who are the ancient people? According to this, you know, sacred knowledge, the indigenous people here knew that they was from both sides of the planet, bro. So, you know, I mean, like, if I can claim, knowing what I know, right? Like, we've all seen the definition of America. You know what you know. There's no way you could tell me I could claim to be Asiatic. I could claim to be African, but American is something that's supposed to be banned.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the clearest cut definition for us.
Right.
Along with more and American means the same thing, bro.
Yeah.
I just wish the people who was claiming it knew that.
Knew it. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Another thing too, with regard to that, when you're saying about the Aboriginal and Indigenous people here, knowing that they're indigenous to both sides of the hemisphere, is because they know about Pangea.
Yeah.
They know about the world being one landmass, so they can relate to being over here and over there without an Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when the people who lack knowledge start talking about turtle islands and all that, you know, they're skewed in their perspective of what the world looks like. Because Turtle Island only means over here. It doesn't include over there. But if you're talking your Aboriginal Indigenous, then you're talking about original people, like you're saying. And original people means the people who were here before there was even an ocean going through these two land masses. Right?
Right. Right. So that's what I'm saying, bro. I look at it like this. We have a free national name for these times, but when we go back and do the history, we've had many appellations, bro. Like Noble Drew Ali talks about the Moabites, Canaanites, Hittites, and Amorite brethren. These are all the same people.
Yeah.
We don't got different appellations. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, come on. It's right there in chapter 47. And then you basically just talking about parents and their offspring. It's the same people. Old man Cush and his, Cush and his father Ham, etc. Come on, man. Like, this is the same family that just took up different portions of land. It's the same people, fam. So you got Hamites, Canaanites, Moabites, Hittites, Amorites, etc. Like, well, wouldn't that sound crazy if I said, I'm not an Amorite, I'm a Moabite, or I'm not a Hamitite, I'm a Canaanite. Like, oh, these are all the same people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Not Jews specifically. I'm just saying, like, that's how we sound when we say, oh, I'm American, but I'm not a Moor. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, just shut up. You know what I'm saying? You don't know enough yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't. And then there's some appellations people just don't resonate with. I get it, but you know what I mean. It is what it is. I'm connected to everything that's a part of our descendancy, bro. Like who we descend from, whether that be, Canaanites, Moabites, Hamitites, Hittites, Amorites, the word American, you know what I'm saying, Al-Moroccan, Moor, all of that, Asiatic, you know what I'm saying, a Mexum, translated today as Mexican, you know what I mean? That's like Mexicans saying, "Oh no, I'm not Mexican. Forget Mexican. I'm a Moor." Like, yeah, that could be very well true, but Mexican is derived from a Mexum, right? So why would you dismiss that? You know what I mean? Like in that sense, you gotta know where these words are really coming from.
Right.
So I'm just saying, bro, I don't know, man. Like it gets I don't know, bro. Like I mean that. Like it's kind of hard to harp on it because, like just like if you're born, let's just say you was born and your mother just gave you the standard name, first, middle, and last name. You got 3 names, so-called names, anyway. 3 appellations, and they could be considered names, right? You got 3 of them almost at birth. You might not resonate with your middle. You might resonate with your middle opposed to your first or the last. Or you might resonate with all 3. Or you might not resonate with any of them and correct your appellation. You know what I mean? Just like Muhammad Ali did. But if you resonate with it and it's a part of your story, then I would embrace that for a starting point. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like
That's the issue that their starting point is in the middle. Mm-hmm. Their starting point isn't at the start. So already you're going to be off. You're going to be way off. If they're talking about planets been here billions of years or whatever, and you're starting from after the great earthquake and all that stuff, you're going to be lost. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Zero. Because they're starting off in off position. You know what I mean? They're claiming that they're on, but they're really off. They're claiming that they know what they're talking about, but they really don't know. Because again, even if you check a lot of the people who are claiming Aboriginal and indigenous or whatever, they're talking about what their grandmother and grandfather and great grandmother or whatever said. That's modern. That's not some ancient history.
Yeah.
That's 80 years ago. Oh, I researched my great granddad and found out that we're whatever. How is that ancient? That was a few generations ago. You know what I mean? Well, we don't have a reference point for, I couldn't find anything for my great grandmother. Well, I'm pretty sure if they were dark-skinned people, you don't really have to ask your great whoever. The history's there. But you have to know what to research in order to get that history. Like you can't be absent-minded of the history just because it wasn't your family there. Like, what do you mean? If we're all one family, then you're going to learn something from every aspect of the human family. You're not just going to limit it to your aunts and uncles and grandparents only and claim that you know yourself. It doesn't even make sense. Which again is why Drew Ali gave us all those different reference points: Amorites and Canaanites and Moabites and all these different All these different reference points of the same people. Not some different people he's talking about. He's talking about all the same people. The Paraguayans and the Mexicans and everybody, the North Americans, all these people are Muslims. But those are all different names. How are all those different names of people one thing if they're not all the same? But that's how it goes when you don't have a mastermind as your reference point. Your dumb nigger that just came yesterday. He was Negro black colored 2 days ago, and now he got 18,000 people on YouTube or whatever like that. And then you think that, oh yeah, they're the guys. These are the guys we're gonna listen to. This guy was just a nigger just yesterday. Now he has some knowledge of self. And then you're chasing him again, looking outside yourself, looking externally for the freedom when everything is within. Even the knowledge of your history. Because spirit will tell you whether something's right and exact or whether it's some BS. Because nothing's new under the sun. Nothing. As long as the sun's been around, nobody should be coming to you to they got some new stuff that you never heard before. Yeah, you might not have heard before, but I don't think that it's new. I really don't think that it's new. Oh, and by the way, for everybody who's online right now, don't forget it's 10:55. So you got 5 minutes to jump on the Canaanland Moors, or to call in if you got questions or something like that. The number's at the bottom of the screen, 563-999-3403. Because MHHS Blog Talk's going to be cutting off in 4 minutes. So if you're listening online, get yourself either on Canaanland Moors YouTube or get yourself called in. Numbers at the bottom of the screen, because we don't want to hear people talking about they just cut us up. It wasn't them. It was you listening on the wrong platform. It's not work.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, no doubt. Time flew, but for sure, 563-999-3403 is the call-in number. And of course, if you don't call in by 11, you won't be able to call in. You got to go back and listen to the rest of the archives, and get this last hour. And we'll continue the last hour right here on MHHS Blog Talk Radio, simultaneously being broadcasted on Canaanland Moore's YouTube page. So we're giving you the visuals as well of what we're talking about. So yeah, more like that's just what it is for me, bro. Like I see it like, many just like your family today. Everybody got a different appellation, but the same bloodline. You know what I'm saying? And we get caught up in words, and that's something I don't want to do, because I've read the book The Light of Egypt, and it was talking about once you get to and don't get me wrong, etymology is very important when we're using words, but don't let words use you, because it was speaking about in The Light of Egypt how when you really get to that higher degree of understanding yourself, nothing really has a name. You know what I mean? Like nothing has an appellation, really. Like on its own merit. Like we call trees trees, but they don't call themselves that. You know what I'm saying? We might call a cat, but it don't call itself a cat. It just is. It's just the I am continuously existing. But on this thing, right, on this earth plane, we have to utilize words proper, which is why etymology is important. Which is why it's important to know that, according to the word, you are not Negro, black, or colored. You're not that. if we're going to use these words, but in reality, we just exist off the I am. If there was any words or letters, I am that I am. I am what I am. That's just it. So that's another degree of understanding. You know what I'm saying? And understanding that you can learn by signs and symbols as well. So it's vital, you know. However, you know, I don't want to say that and not emphasize how important etymology is. It's not like, oh, words don't mean nothing. We can say we're black, brown, you know, yellow, red, whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it gets to a point where it's like, whatever you say, how is it, like, you know what I mean? What is one of them subjects that's hard to put into words. I could just leave it there. You know what I'm saying? When you're thinking on a higher degree, some things are just hard to find words for. So I'm gonna leave that there, bro. But yeah. So I just think that when it comes to actually choosing words, know the right ones to utilize. For me, you know, being born in America, you know, North America at that. Understanding I'm a Moor, you know, understanding that Morocco really isn't just across the Great Atlantic, but the chronology of the earth was once attached to the very ground that we walk on. So it's still a piece of that. And we just Moroccans born in America, us Moorish Americans, but you got Moroccans that are born in Europe. You got Moroccans that are born in Asia. So far, and then we could get into how all of these things are really the same thing,
right?
You know, so yeah, more like, you know, I think we need not let that divide us, because when we're saying where these things, everybody is essentially saying that they're original, right? So the origin was everywhere first, in that sense, as far as people is concerned, you know. So yeah, more. I don't know. It's a few other things we could pull up. It's the last hour. We don't have many callers with their actual hand up to ask questions, which that might be a good thing. But I just think that, you know, as far as making a point with this definition of American mysteries, that the original people of America, you know, is known that they were claiming their origins on both sides. You know, not these modern people talking about the Indians and American Indians, but not Moors. They don't have enough reference points.
Right.
That's the key thing. Or they're not studying, you know. So.
And another part. Yeah, another part of it is them not using their common sense when it comes to certain things. That, you know, if we're saying that we're the original people of the world, we're the original people of the planet, and there's all these different names that we're known as, or we call ourselves those things, right? If that's who you are, if that's really who you are, that's your appellation, and we press you and say, hey, if you're Cherokee or Iroquois or original man or autochthonous or whatever, let me see some ID that says that, and you can't show me anything, you're full of BS. And we don't really want to hear you talking. Because if you're making claims, you should be able to prove your claim. As Moors, we know we can prove our claim. We'll slap nationality card down on the table to let you know. We'll put some paperwork down or something like that to let you know this is who we are. But you're not going to get that from the Indians and whoever else. Guarantee all these people have some corporate colonial document that they're using as identification if it goes down to the go down. Regardless what they call themselves, regardless what their IG name is and their YouTube page name is and all that stuff, When we press them and say, yo, prove what you're talking about. If you say that you're Indian, then let me see some Indian ID. Oh, you're autochthonous? Let me see some autochthonous ID. Oh, it doesn't mean I don't have to show you that. As soon as they start going there, they start going in that bag, they're playing games. They don't have anything to prove. They're just out here playing games. And you're the game that they're playing. If you thought it was something else.
Yeah.
You're the game. Keep you deaf and dumb and blind. Keep you not knowing who it is that you are, when common sense should tell you and let you know quick, fast. With the quickness, common sense will square you up and let you know what's good. Just like you said, if you're gonna say you're American, then you're Al Moroccan. But if you're gonna say you're American, but you're not Al Moroccan, you're not Moors, but you're Cherokee, but you're not a Moor, but you're, whatever tribe, but you're not part of the Moorish nation, then people are playing games with you. Don't listen to them. Stop giving them your time. Stop giving them your energy, because they're leading you nowhere. It's just they like to use that one. Oh, well, it doesn't matter what we call ourselves. We know what we're talking about. Yeah, we know what we're talking about amongst ourselves. But if we're going out here in the world as a bunch of people, you better have nationality or whatever. Don't think you're coming around here. We're talking some highwaymen, and you're talking about we're Indians because the Constitution says Indians and all that stuff, and the supreme law of the land, so we're Indians. The hell out of here. We're not going with any of that BS, because all that is fiction. All of it is fiction.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, if the General Grand High Priest of the United States and all of these people, right, because they be trying to diss Moors, and I don't know if they're paid ops. Some of them, I believe, are paid ops, and others, I believe, are very, very ignorant. When I see some of this stuff, it's like this is such a low level of ignorance. Nobody's studied. You know what I mean? It's like not, and even if you studied, you ain't studied enough, right? When you're claiming you're Indian and not more and all of this, and it just goes to show, like, Moors have been dealing with resisting systemic, what people call systemic racism or systemic oppression. That's what Moors been dealing with. That's a fact. Because the system is paperwork. That's what it is. It's claims. It's everything written. You know what I mean? Like, everything got to be documented. You know what I mean? And somebody said, yeah, nah, they paid ops. And some of them are ops. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I believe that. Some of them is just ridiculously ignorant. And all of it is ignorance in reality. You know what I mean? Because it is what it is. You can't counter intelligence, but I'm just saying that to say that the higher ups of this system that we say we are against systemic oppression, you gotta know what they know. How you gonna you know what I mean? Like, you gotta, in the way, let me say, it would benefit you to know what they know. Even if you didn't go to a mountaintop and shout it out to the rest of the world, you know that's a start. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And share it with some people that they feel is trustworthy enough to share it with. But the system or systemic racism or systemic oppression is all paperwork, even to the fact that when you deal with them, the first thing they do is try to label your race black. You know what I'm saying? Or some other very modern term. So nationality and identity is weaved into, what the system is all about. So-called system anyway. You know what I mean? It's in the fabric of it. Who is the inferiors? Who is the superiors? Was everybody equal and free, like, you gotta start getting into status and identity, estate, and I just see it like that. So I'm not arguing with nobody. I'm saying these are the facts. The fact that a high priest of the United States knows this, and they know that, and that's what must have been dealing with, right in their registry, and all of these things. These are the same people who are holding positions of public service, appearance-wise, holding positions of public service. So that being the case, if you're dealing with the so-called system, you got to know language, right? And you got to know how to make what you're saying in your position count. Because that's what jurisdiction is, right? Words. So, and you need to be aware of that. And I'm gonna leave that there, Lord. I don't know. We don't have anybody with their hand raised. If you want to continue to go in, we can. If you want to revisit this topic, because it's a lot more we could go into.
Definitely.
Because it even talks about the mysteries of the Mexican, right? That's the next line.
Yeah.
The mysteries of the Mexican tribes.
Yeah.
Were characterized by cruelty and bloodshed. You know what I'm saying? It says the mysteries of the Mexican tribes were characterized by cruelty and bloodshed. It kind of showed you this in the movie Apocalypto. Did you ever watch that movie, bro?
Yeah. Apocalypto was a classic. Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah,
that was a good one. Yeah.
The classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But seeing how they was getting real ill at the temple of Kukulkan, right? It almost sounded like Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
But again, another thing they jacked from who? You guessed it. Moors, a Mexican. So, you know what I'm saying? With that being the case, and I'm not sitting here saying Mexicans are just violent people or some Trump type, or they're sending their worst. Nah. I'm just saying that this was a part of it. Everything wasn't all peaches and cream with everybody. So again, when Noble Ali was saying we need to deal with our higher self, because some of these Mexican rituals was brutal, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they was brutal, bro. Like that is definitely a warrior aspect of the nation, for real. The mysteries of the Mexican tribes were characterized by cruelty and bloodshed. In the celebration of these shocking rites, the aspirant was previously subjected to long and painful fastings and compelled to undergo, and even at heightened form, all the terrors and sufferings which distinguish the mysteries of the Eastern continent. He was scourged with cords, wounded with knives, and cauterized with red-hot cinders. So cruel were these probations that many perished under their afflictions, and yet he who recoiled from the trial or suffered an involuntary groan to escape his lips was dismissed with contempt and considered thenceforth as unworthy to mingle in the society of his equals. It was in the temple of Huitzilopochtli that the Mexican mysteries were celebrated on the grandest scale, the candidate being first anointed with a narcotic unguent, descended into the gloomy caverns of initiation, which were excavated beneath the temple. The ceremonies were intended to represent the wanderings of the god in the caverns through which the aspirant was to pass, we call it the path of the dead. So even with that, Black according to science means death. Black culture, deaf culture, and all of that, it wasn't for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And then for some people, that's what they was into. So yeah.
Just another reference point with regard to since we were talking about Mexicans, you could look up some articles by Mark Simmons. You look up some articles by Mark Simmons. This is what Mark Simmons had to say about the Mexicans. The first conquistadors in the New World were instructed by the Spanish king to keep a lookout for mosques and Muslim priests. When Cortez conquered the Aztecs 1519 to 1521, he reported to his sovereign in Spain, "We discovered many mosques which they have in these parts." By mosques, Cortez meant the huge stone temples of the Aztec Indians. Of course, the buildings had nothing to do with Islam. Still, Spaniards continued to make this mistake to the end of the 16th century. An example comes from the Castano de Souza expedition during its ramble through New Mexico. At Jacona Pueblo, west of Pojoac, the newcomers observed a big round house containing many idols. It sat in the center of a large plaza. Wrote Constano de Souza, "We understood this structure to be a mosque." Spanish confusion in this matter was grounded in centuries of medieval warfare between Christians and Muslims in the Iberian Peninsula. The Long Crusade, known in history as the Reconquest, left a deep imprint on the Spanish mind and culture. Assorted Islamic influences had been assimilated, coloring Spanish language and literature, music, folk customs, crafts, dress, architecture, agriculture, and even the Christian religion. This hybrid culture of European, Christian, and African Muslim elements was carried to New Spain and eventually to New Mexico. The Pueblos here, like the Moors, were non-Christians, that is, infidels. For instance, they said that some of the Native Americans shot arrows from bows that looked like those of the Moors. Others painted or tattooed their chins in the fashion of Moorish women. They go about like the Arabs with their tents and troops of dogs which carry Moorish pack saddles with girths. In August 1680, Captain Pedro de Leyva at El Paso received word of the bloody Pueblo revolt upriver. He sent word to the viceroy in Mexico City, saying, "We have determined, few as we are, to attempt to liberate Upper New Mexico, as did those Covadonga against the Moorish dogs." So don't let them fool you that when they say Mexican and Aztec and Inca and they start talking about Indian tribes and all that, that these people don't know that all those quote-unquote temples were mosques. And the only people who have connection to mosques like that are Moors. No Indians have connections to mosques like that. There's no coming here in the 1500s as conquistadors and then seeing mosques and then thinking, "Oh, those mosques were built yesterday. Those been here. Those are ancient. They've been here so long." And the only reason they call them temples is to confuse the people and keep them with the Moorish stuff not being connected to over here when there is a direct connection to the Aboriginal indigenous people of the Americas and the Moors. Direct connection, especially if all the places where the Aboriginal indigenous people went to learn, where they went to sleep, where they went to do their little blood rituals and all that stuff is relative to architecture that the Moors had. And then that was out of Santa Fe, New Mexican.com. Santa Fe, New Mexican.com. Mark Simmons is the author of the article.
Yeah, and look at that. Back to the original topic. You know, when you're speaking about architecture and all of that, you're having a Masonic conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's literally about building. That's what it is. You know what I mean? So I don't see a more exemplary example of masonry outside of what Moors left. You know what I mean? As far as the buildings they built, Noble Dry Lee went into this, the Alhambra, the Taj Mahal, among many other buildings and temples and everything like that, right here in America, bro. Like, I've seen it, you know what I mean? Like Pittsburgh, man, that place is a historical gem. If you're looking with a Masonic eye, all those beautiful old buildings, brick, and you know, some of them is covered up with stucco, but you know, old brick buildings and those castles, and you know, you can pick any city in North America, man, so called. With a Masonic eye, with an eye of observing beauty in building. The buildings in Pittsburgh are serious. Philadelphia as well, or Shaker Maxim, right? New York City, all of them, man. Like all of the big cities, you can see Masonic evidence. Like that's what the skylines be about. It be people actually flexing their Masonic skills, their building skills.
Yep.
So you know, those is like playgrounds for that, in the sense of you can put your skills on full exhibition. And of course, you can't do it all by yourself. And you got smaller ones in other places, of course. You know, but yeah, man, I don't know. I think they all go hand in hand. You know, I don't mean to harp on the question all night, but I believe that with what we shared today on the screen and these American mysteries, and these Aborigines of America proving their origin, seeming to prove their origin from the races that inhabit the Eastern Hemisphere, I don't see how somebody could be in the lodge and not know their history and it benefit them. Right. You know what I mean? Or vice versa. If you never go and get initiated, but you missing this history or these, you know, correlating facts to who left us all a blueprint, being Noble Drew Ali, then it's kind of like, you know, you might be missing something either way it goes, you know?
Sure.
So again, that's my position on it. I don't say that to say that anybody should get initiated. I'm just saying, you know, you should know a little bit about the history. You know what I mean? That's it.
Islam.
So yeah, more. I mean,
Islam.
I think it's all ours, not ours. Oh, was you able to pull up that picture?
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, my I couldn't email it to myself. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, no, I wasn't even able to pull it up.
Got you. Okay, yeah, no, because I wanted to dedicate a time block to go in on that. Excuse me as well. But so you couldn't get that up. I don't know. You can take the floor back, bro.
Yeah, well, you know, that I didn't really have anything else to add after that. That was the traces of Moorish New Mexico was about it that I had.
Right. So I guess we don't have to go overkill tonight. We don't have any callers. I mean, we have callers, but nobody has their hand up. So I think that's a good thing in that sense. I mean, if people want to call in, ask a question, anything, you can do that now. You can press one on your phone. If not, we'll probably wrap this up in a couple of minutes.
Yes,
But yeah, more so, I gotta say, from what we already discussed, I think that these were credible reference points. Again, this wasn't, speculating on everything we don't know. This kind of correlated to what we already knew.
Right.
But to show that there's actually reference points, like Moors aren't the only ones who know this. You know what I mean? Your systemic ops know this. That's a fact. The systemic ops already know this. So, and even with the point of, we were speaking about Mexicans, I find it very interesting that Mexican dollars is mentioned as a form of currency in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Morocco and the United States. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if that was that, if it was between Morocco and the United States, why was Mexican dollars, noted as the form of payment? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something else to think about. We know. I'm just saying, like, you really got to think about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there you go. Somebody, I don't know if that's another form of ignorance, so I'm not even going to call that out. But I think somebody briefly had their hand, but they put it down. Well, anyway, man, somebody puts in the chat, Canadians are from Canada, Mexicans are from Mexico, both have national flags. Man, again, it goes back to the point that, the Moorish flag is the national flag for the original people.
Yep.
All over the planet. Canada is a corporation. Like, it didn't exist 600 years ago, but the land America did, and the people that was on the land and indigenous here existed as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, with that being the case, the flag for the original people, as we already discussed this, I'm not going to go back over this again. I think if you listen to this from beginning to now, you can get the point that the original people, right, because Canada is a colonial corporation, United States is a colonial corporation. The original people have their own national flags, and the corporation has a banner, just like McDonald's got their own banner.
Yeah.
Every so-called state has their own banner, and then you got the Star-Spangled Banner. We got to know the difference between national flags and banners, no matter how they're classifying them.
And then also too, divine origin of the Asiatic nations, the Moorish Americans and the Mexicans in North America, not the Canadians and the United Statesians and the Mexicans of North America. The Moorish Americans and Mexicans.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Mexicans free national name, but we know that comes from that comes from a Mexican. And Moorish Americans is everybody else other than Mexicans, which includes United States so-called and Canada so-called, which both of those are corpses. None of those are national anything. They're corpses. And if Drew Ali's the reference point, then everything above Mexico is the land of Moorish Americans, not the fictions that we've been told that those are. I yield.
Yeah. So there we go. That being the case, y'all, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. We're not going to overkill. I think we can leave it right here.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll revisit this topic.
Next month.
Next go around.
Yeah,
I mean, Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to leave them with that definition of black that's in here, since we was talking about masonry, or we could end it here.
Oh yeah, we could definitely end it and revisit. Give these Moors a chance to go into the lexicon and see what they can pull out. Maybe that could be discussion for next round. You know, what did you find? What did you find in there in the lexicon of Freemasonry? Because there's a lot.
Right.
There's definitely a lot. There's a lot in there. It's not even funny. Not even funny.
No doubt. Well, look, now that we about to close, we got a couple people with their hand up.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, we could take those. Sure.
Okay.
We still got half. Sure.
Yeah, we still got a half hour. Let's engage with the caller. Peace, fam. Caller 425-337. You live on the air. Peace, fam. You with us? Hello?
Peace.
Peace. Can you hear my voice?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, we can hear you. Oh, man, okay. This is my first time. I am Noble Naeem Bey. I am nationalized Moor. Been nationalized for the last 2 years. And I've been doing studying. I like what you guys are saying. You brothers are saying. It rings a real good bell with me. And now that I know that you exist, I will be listening to you in the future and hopefully participating in the talk because it's some beautiful talk.
Islam.
I enjoy it. So, I just love what you're saying. I'm up here in Everett, Washington Territory, and I'm the only nationalized Moor up this way. And so I look out to reach out to people who are doing things. I don't know what area you folks are calling from, but it's good to hear your voice.
Islam, Moor.
So and this is every Thursday around this time that this is going on. No, every third Thursday, once a month. Okay, every third Thursday a month. Yeah, but we have an extensive catalog you can go back and listen to. But every third Thursday of every month on Moorish Heritage History School Blog Talk Radio. And and I can do that also online. Yeah, you can do that online, and you can listen to these back as well on Canaanland Moors YouTube page. Okay. Yeah, right, because he streams it, we can put up the visuals of what we're talking about as well as do the audio, So yeah, I listen to a lot of Cars and Asir, the Duke of Tears, and Sabir Bey. Those are three people, along with Sharon when she was out. Sharon Tracy Yale Bey. Well, look, I'm gonna leave you with this. That. I said I'm gonna tell you this like we said in the beginning. No matter who you listen to, it's only real when you make it yours. You know what I'm saying? Right. Thank you. It don't matter who you listen to. It's never the messenger. It's the message, right? So, not to discredit anybody, but I'm just saying, whatever you learned, research it. Whatever you hear, whatever you heard, look it up for yourself. That's all. That I do. Yeah. Islam for that. And that's why. I'm just looking to be that part of a bigger whole, something bigger than myself. Even though I am who I am, I am that person. But I just want to connect with people that are, I want to connect with the lions and not with the chickens.
Yeah, Islam.
And move forward. If you understand.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I hear a couple of lines on the line here, and like I said, I haven't done too much research, but I've done enough to have the energy to want more.
Right.
And so I get the books and I do the reading, and and basically I'm studying the law part of the Moorish movement, which is very enlightening to me. And here I am. I'm almost 70 years old, and I woke up at 66. So I'm glad to be awoke at this age. Better late than never. Okay. So yeah, and what's that? I said, well, we thankful that our message reached you, and we hope that you continue to resonate with it, man. So I sure will. I sure will. Yeah, this is the rest of my life right here.
Islam.
And I don't play with it. And I have been looking for something like this all my life. And again, unfortunately, it took me until I was 66 to get it. But I got it. And so when it came time for me to nationalize, that's what I did.
Right.
I found you guys through RV Bay Publications. I just received some books from them, and then I had that card that they advertised sitting around, but I never really read that because I didn't see any importance in it until today. And something just told me to call you folks and see what they had to say.
Yeah,
like what you say.
Nothing before its time. Everything's right in tune with where you are mentally.
Yeah. And I thank you guys for that. Again, like I said, I'm up here in Everett. Seattle was not lively enough because I'm getting ready to move back down to Portland where they have a conflict where we can kind of I can rub elbows with other Moorish people.
Mm-hmm.
And we can together information and grow together. And so I do my part as to, what I'm doing, and researching and listening and applying and trying to get people to wake up. And that's kind of hard for, up here. It's really hard. Again, what areas are you folks from? Are you brothers from? North America, bro. North America, okay. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I just find that the movements are more heavier in the South End and on the East side, than over here. And so that's why I gravitate towards the people towards the East and the South.
Yeah, just once you stay close to RV Bay Publications, even with our channel, there's always Moors in our chats. There's always Moors leaving comments and all that. So you're gonna gravitate to those Moors. It's not like Moors aren't out there like that. You know what I mean? It's only been 2 years. But if I go through, I'm looking at about 12 years. And if I go through my phone, there's Moors all over the place. We know Moors near Germany, Switzerland, UK, Moors all over this place. And once you're vibrating on the frequency, those Moors would definitely gravitate to you. So, you just keep studying, keep your energy right, and you're definitely gonna bump into a lot more of the family.
Okay. Will do. Definitely. That being said, we got about 20 minutes left, and we have another caller. So, brethren, you stay tuned. There's always something going on MHHS Blog Talk Radio weekly. Definitely every Tuesday, Wednesday at 9 p.m. on Tuesday and 7:30 on Wednesday. And that's the reason why I asked what area, because I'm here and it's a little past 8 o'clock. I'm on the way. I'm on.
Yeah, we're Eastern time
right now, bro.
Yeah, Eastern time.
Yeah. That being said, we gotta get to the next caller. We got about 20 minutes left. Okay. So no problem. All right. Deal. All right. Deal.
Peace and love, more.
No doubt. No doubt. All right. Caller 682-360. You live on the air. Peace, fam. You with us? Yes, sir. What's going on? Okay.
Peace, more.
What's going on? Man, I heard some good things today, man. I was going through the same thing with a brother I had ran into, and he kept saying he was Cherokee Indian. And the question I asked him is, which India are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Because only Indians I know is from India. You know, so right there, if you think about it, you do critical thinking, you know, you'll find out that Indians come from India. There's already an Indian. You know what I'm saying? So, like I was explaining to him, you know, when Christopher and the boys, you know, when they was trying to come over here, you know, they before Christopher Columbus or whatnot, they thought the world was flat, you know. And I guess Christopher Columbus found out from one of the Moors that it was round. You know, because he was over in that area that they called today Spain. You know, so once he figured out it was round, he was like, okay, we can go the back way to get to India. You know? And he ended up hitting the Bahamas, or what's today called the Bahamas, in the islands. So, and he thought that he was in India. So he said, guess what? Y'all gotta be Indian. I'm in India. You know what I'm saying? I guess that term just kind of stuck. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, how can you be Indian when Indians are from India? And that's what the Europeans called us when they found us over here, because they couldn't get to the New World. So that was interesting conversation with him. I heard y'all speaking on the Freemasonry too, also. And I used to watch a show on Netflix. I was checking it out. They had a Mason show on Netflix. Couldn't believe that. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, they take death oaths not to tell anything. I'm like, they gonna kind of semi give us some piece of whatever they think they know, the 30 degrees that they think they know. But what was interesting is when they would go into these meeting rooms, they would close the door. And, you know, the cameras couldn't go into the meeting room. But on the door, it was a hieroglyph of Egyptian council on the meeting door. And I said, if we got it from them and everybody wants to call us Shriners, why would they have Egyptian hieroglyphs of council meetings on their door?
Exactly.
This is on Netflix. You can go on Netflix and look at it. You know what I'm saying? If it's still on there, I don't know if it's still on there, but you know, that just right there, you know, it always resonates. The truth always come out. But it resonated with me. I was like, man,
They got Egyptian hieroglyphs right there on they door to the meeting, to the lodge. You can't get in. I'll let you know where they got it from.
Yeah.
I thought that kind of interesting too. I heard y'all speaking on that. Also, yeah. And then I was thinking about why they call the Mexicans or why they say they speak Spanish, right? And so, you know, because they was talking, you know what I'm saying? Don't quote me on it, but I think that's where Good Friday came from. You know, when they went down there and conquered them, you know, really us, you know, Mexicans, all Mex, really us, South, you know what I'm saying? But that wasn't what they spoke. I thought it was black, something like that. They might not even had a language to call it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever they spoke was what they spoke. But how did it become Spanish? And you look after they conquered our stronghold over there, what they call Spain. They was like, well, yeah, let's go ahead and conquer them everywhere then, you know. And then so they came, and this is just me critically thinking, you know, they came in and named the language Spanish. And then also put Roman Catholic on them. If you see the Mexican religion today, most of them are Roman Catholic. And I'm like, you got this European pale lady that they call Mary, you know, on most of their walls, the little blonde hair, blue eyed guy. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, how, in your right mind, if you look at you and your ancestors, you know, you can tell that they've been conquered, because how can anybody that don't look like you help you? Right? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where that whole Spanish came from. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna have to do some more research on it. You know, that's just what that's like, if you just look at the timeline, that should let a lot of people know right there, you know, the direct correlation between Moors and the original people here. Hold on, bro, I'm gonna have to mute you for a second. Because your background is like you're driving right now. Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like you got that as a clear indicator of these timelines. Like you telling me, okay, so the Moors fell in Spain, got defeated, and in that same time frame, the Europeans invade America. I mean, like, it goes back to the point earlier. Like, the Moorish Empire was on both sides of the Atlantic, and that the original people over here already knew that they had ties, origin ties, on both sides of the planet, you know? So, I mean, the footprint of Moors is all throughout history, and I just think that with what we presented tonight gave another perspective of to how that is definitely like you can't debunk that. You know what I mean? People could deny it, but it's not debunkable, man. Like, it's just adding up on too many societies. You know, so I mean, it all speaks for itself, you know?
Yeah.
So with that being said, man, we're gonna close out. We're gonna get off of here for tonight. And I trust everybody have a great night, better tomorrow. Anybody who will listen to this in the future, acknowledgement to you all. And we appreciate you, man. We'll be back next month for another installment of
another session of MHHS, Eyes Wide Open, Blog Talk Radio.
Islam.
You know? Islam. All right. That being said, we out here.
Peace and love, Moors. Islam. Give thanks, Ms.
Peace and love. No doubt.
Look, if you want to read it traveling in full. The Moors is slain, written in 1887 for Alianjo Bataziza. Read his book in Spanish, The Moors is free, and said that even the draft was introduced by those Africans.
Ain't no goddamn motion picture. They got me with the gun. Artifact, I'm a hawk lad. I'll be running through the scene like I'm on a lap. The way they left them on the scene, put us on the map. Try be all up on the scene, look hard for artists on the Moorish artifact, son, like I'm Artemis. See, I be running through the scene like I'm on a mission. The way they left about the scene, made them hard to listen. See, I be all up on the scene, looking for my shit like red flags and green dashes. We assassins, triple gold, my pins high like I'm Selassie. Cause the cold, your men die, we everlasting. In the cold like Northgate, winter, Alaska. Killing the pastor, taking it down my mind like a disaster. Ass within the fastest. If you don't represent the serpentine bloodline, more white bloodline, welcome to the front line. Lady, I want mine. I'm throwing patient, I'm cutting up in the lunch line. I call it crunch time. They trying to bust some, but I ain't overtime. I'm no Charlie, I'm working overtime. Hidden GD, 1787, time 711, higher than 77, steady, steady, no guessing. Better stomach the lesson, who be checking the house, I'm all alone like Kevin 27. I couldn't make my case, it was law and rep it. I couldn't miss all the flies, no heads, listen. I keep a seven man on the top of the dresser, working 7 days a year, looking for the old boy, artifact, son, like I'm Artemis. See, I be running through the scene like I'm on a mission. The way they left about the scene, made them hard to listen. See, I be all up on the scene, looking for my shit like.
Doctrine of discovery from a grave Al-Aqsa. Always challenge jurisdiction of your captors. Stand on your square. No apron or protractors who manifest deception. Not Cleopatra. Man is man tantra. Know that self mantra. Get out the lower self and vibrate your chakras. Walking on the higher road. My staff on my levels of Allah is my God protected more with the sevens up. Four quadrant halos, celestial pharaohs. Expose those Socrates and Plato's. Chopped down my cherry tree and still couldn't bury me. In their secret lodges, they pretend to be me. Indiana Jones, national treasures, angels and demons, and one world agendas. Raise up late smiles, alien, reptilian, running corporate governments with more artillery and invisible wars. Police state has risen, uplifting falling from their mental prisons. 5-point star drawn, protecting wormholes, leads to the hands and backs of third hole.
So the more artifact, son, like I'm Artemis. See, I be running through the scene like I'm on a mission. The way they left about the scene, made them hard to listen. See, I be all up on the scene, looking for my shit like.
But remember, when it became a time in 1766, Africans who were saying from 711, we were calling ourselves Moors, M-A-U-E-R-S, then M-O-R-S. From 711 to 1485,